I read 52 books last year, and I'm going to tell you about my top 10 favorites of the year. Starting off strong with one of the first books that I read last year, and it's called They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. It follows two people's perspectives through each chapter, flipping back and forth between the past and present tense. The main perspective is from a female serial killer who is a teacher at a university or college. She is basically playing a Dexter and only killing men who have done bad things and have gotten away with it. You slowly find out also how the two perspectives are related. Following up would be, I believe, my second or third book read by the author B.A. Paris. This one is called Behind Closed Doors. It's mostly from the perspective of a woman who is in a marriage with a man who at first seemed very charming and very kind, and he would do everything for her, but as it sometimes happens, he definitely morphs into, I'm gonna say, a monster. Keeping her under control, keeping her under lock and key, threatening her family. I won't give it away, but I'm definitely on her side. Okay, I think this one is my second book that I've read by Riley Sager. This one is Home After Dark. This one was interesting because I normally don't love books with some sort of supernatural element. I will say I like the supernatural element of this book better than I did of the other book of his that I read before, which was The House Across the Lake. That one just didn't do it for me. This one follows the daughter of a family who moved into a house that kind of had a history. There was a little bit of a quasi-supernatural element to it. Basically, a book was written about the time that this family spent in this house under the guise of it being haunted. And the locals were not too pleased with that. So the daughter coming back to do a fixer-upper and sell the house, not really received very well. Liked this one a lot. Definitely will be reading more by him. I read at least one other book by him last year. Alright, I could not do this video without mentioning The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. I read her other book, All Good People Here, and I am just a sucker for a small town tragedy. If you want me to read a book, all I need is small town tragedy, maybe when the people were teenagers, something is bringing them back to the town, and they got to solve this mystery. This one basically follows the younger sister of a girl who went missing, and she somehow connects with another girl who her sister was killed around the same time. But basically it's the younger sister trying to solve the mystery of her missing sister. Again, I'm not going to give anything away, but wow, this one was good and a little, it was very sad. It was sad. One that I probably would have never seen had I not seen it at the bookstore in the 3 for $10 section is actually a book called Snow by John Banville. This one follows the death of a priest, I believe in a small town in either Ireland or Scotland. I'm gonna figure out which one it is. And he had a little bit of an interesting relationship with one family. This book definitely has some dark undertones, and I will say, similarly with the last book that I mentioned, the ending of this one, it was sad, and you kind of feel that his death was justified, I'm not gonna lie.
No!
I'm now gonna talk about the book My Dark Vanessa. This was recommended to me by the woman who runs this local silent book club that I go to. I got this book out from the library, and I read about 270 pages of this book in one day. I read this book maybe in the summertime, fall of last year. This book has stuck with me since then. It's stuck with me in the way that the book False Witness by Karen Slaughter has stuck with me. There's just something that just gives me a sick, aching feeling when it's dealing with, I'm gonna say, assault of a child, teenager. This follows the life of a woman called Vanessa from the age of, I believe, maybe 15 or so until maybe her 20s, just not able to kind of fully come to terms with the depth of things that she went through. And it is just extremely sad. All right, I also could not make this video without mentioning the brand new book in a brand new series by Karen Slaughter called We Are All Guilty Here. Again, you're really drawing me in with a small town thing that happened, and then it's now in the future, and then you figure out that you were wrong, and now you got to actually solve the crime, and then all this other crazy stuff happens. Anyway, this is the first book in the North Falls series by Karen Slaughter, featuring, what's her name? Emmy, what's her name? What's her name? Emmy Clifton, there we go. She is the deputy of North Falls, Georgia, which I believe is a fictional town. Follows her and her life and her relationships with people in this town. Again, there was a tragedy that happened years ago. They thought they solved the crime, but then, shocker, something else happens and they are linked together. And as with all of these small town stories, you never can trust anybody, no matter if it's someone that you've known your whole life. You can't trust them. Can't wait. There's a second book coming this year. All right, I'm going to talk about the book The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This was at least my second book even last year read by Ruth Ware. I think the very first one that I read was The It Girl, and I think that was also last year. That one was also very good. This follows Laura Blacklock, Lowe by her friends, and she is a journalist, and she gets selected to go on the maiden voyage, I believe, of this luxury ship by this like super rich guy. Anyway, so she goes there, she goes in the place of her boss. I'm trying to remember this stuff from the book and not the movie. She goes in place of her boss cannot go. Notable inclusion is that a couple of days before she goes, she's actually the victim of not a home invasion, but kind of a robbery. She wakes up, I believe, locked in her bedroom, and she finally is able to get the door open or something like that, and there's a man standing there. So she's already a little bit on edge upon going to this ship, I guess. I believe either the first night or one of the first nights she's there, she is getting ready for a party, and she realizes she doesn't have any mascara. So she goes to the cabin next door and knocks on the door, and the woman answers, and she's a little bit frazzled or rude or something, and she asks if she can have some mascara. You know, if she has any she can borrow. She just gives it to her, whatever. So then she goes to the party, whatever. She comes back. She's having trouble sleeping because of her break-in that she had prior. So she's paranoid and she's just like not sleeping well. She was a little drunk too. She's drinking a little bit more than usual as well. And she hears what she thinks is a scream. So she goes out to the balcony outside of her room, and she looks and she swears that she sees like someone having been like dumped overboard and is like, you know, floating. Well, they're probably not alive. Sorry. Floating in the water. And so she's freaking out, and she like is trying to tell people, and nobody's believing her. And then eventually you find out some things, and then I'm not gonna give them away, but it's a very good book and I liked it a lot. All right, this is a book that I had wanted to read for a long time, and it is called The Push by Ashley Audrain. This one follows the life of a woman who becomes pregnant, and upon the birth of her child is really struggling to bond with the child, and vice versa. The child is not really bonding with the mother. The child gets older. It's a little girl. The child gets older, loves the dad, actively is saying to the dad sometimes that she hates the mom though. So there's a little bit of a struggle. The girl is seeming like she's a little bit of a bad seed and causing a little bit of friction. Things eventually kind of fall apart. There's another tragedy that befalls the family, and later on, all the secrets are revealed. And again, I'm not going to give anything else away, but it was very good. And I had wanted to read it for a long time. And I walked into a thrift store where my mom lives sometime last year, and I found it for $4, so I scooped it right up. And an honorable mention because, one, it was my last book of the year that I read, and two, I believe it was the only Sherry LaPena thriller that I had never read before. This follows Karen Krupp, who is involved in some accident, shall we say, and ends up in the hospital. And then she is suffering with amnesia. She cannot remember anything that happened. Now, coincidentally enough, in the area of her accident, a man was found dead. He was found shot 3 times. It is very quickly determined that Karen might have had something to do with this murder, but she can't remember. Her husband is becoming very suspicious of her, and someone who might be feeding him a little bit of lies is the neighbor from across the street, Bridget. We don't trust Bridget. Bridget definitely has ulterior motives. Tom thinks his wife could never do something like that, but what if she could? He doesn't know what to think. And Bridget definitely knows what to tell him to think, but she's a little bit of a sneaky snake, that one. And she loved to watch from the sidelines from her living room through her big, beautiful window in the front of her house. But watching from the sidelines eventually gets you thrown right into the game. She got thrown right into the game. And she's not a very good player. Anyway, that was a bad analogy. Or was it a good one? I don't know. And finally, Tom realizes where his loyalties need to lie. But he's still not really sure if he can trust her. And honestly, I don't blame him. But that was Stranger in the House by Sherry LaPena. I hope you enjoyed this wrap up of my 10 favorite books out of the 52 books that I read last year. I have 76 books on my TBR, physical, on my bookshelf. So there might be a lot more of these, or you might never see me again because I'm just going to be reading until I die. So I'm not really sure. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would definitely like to make more book content in the future. Feel free to follow me on both my Bookstagram and my Book Talk accounts, and the name is here. And I am trying to post reels and posts and stories and stuff over there and just try and get into the algorithm, and we'll see if this content gets any sort of traction on YouTube. I really enjoy talking about books. I had to make a separate Instagram account and separate TikTok account just for books because I just want to eat up the book content, and I also do want to make some as well, and without bothering all of the people who follow me on my main normal accounts. So anyway, that's all from me today, and I'm kind of hungry. All I've had today is Doritos, so I should probably eat some food. Okay, bye. All right, I believe this is the second book that I have read by Alice Feeney. I am going to be including the book Sometimes I Lie. This book is from the perspective of a woman in a coma. And this woman has a sister. Nope, I don't want to do that one.